No one wants to get ill, but if we do, we know we can rely on modern medicine and the healthcare system to take care of us. It is amazing to see how far medicine has developed, and it is easy to imagine that it all developed very recently. However, modern history tends to neglect to mention the wondrous achievements of the Muslim civilizations, and the debt it owes to the Muslim scientists today still remains hidden. When it comes to medicine, we can mention an almost endless list. The first hospital and medical school, the first in organized healthcare system, and the modern medical treatments such as chemotherapy and quarantine. The believers knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controlled all of creation and was responsible ultimately for everything that happened, but they also knew that they were accountable for their efforts. So when the Muslim scholars and scientists pondered over the Sunnah, they realized that they should find the cure in case they became ill themselves. In a famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the ill.
Please note that any views or opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the guests and do not represent the channel.
And today you are watching Women's AM. Today we are looking at single motherhood and all the challenges that it comes with, as well as the amazing things that our single mommies out there are doing despite their struggles. Joining me on this discussion, I have with me Misbah Akhtar, the author of Ramadan Without Daddy. I also have Aisha Davies, hijama practitioner and a mom. So I think once again we're in very good hands to discuss this topic. MashaAllah. First of all, sister, just welcome to Women's AM. This is also your first time on the show. Tell us a bit about yourself. I know you're the author of this very interesting book, Ramadan Without Daddy. I've had a quick flick through. MashaAllah, it's very cute. Tell us a bit about yourself. How many children do you have?
I've got 4 children, and I'm the founder of Single Muslim Mums, which is on Facebook. It's an organisation that aims to support single mothers and also promote awareness. And a part of that was I wanted to write a book for other single mothers out there, because I know a lot of them didn't know how to bring up the subject of divorce with their children, and they found that quite difficult. So that was my motivation behind writing the book.
And what has the reception been?
It's been great. A lot of people have said that they wish that had been around, you know, when they were younger, explaining divorce to their children. It's got a lot of positive feedback, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, this is lovely. I mean, it's quite positive. It's Ramadan Without Daddy, and I like this little bottom bit that says Khadija's story of love, courage and hope. So there's a lot of inspiration there and positivity, but we will come back to this book later on in the show, and we'll talk about that further. But Jazakallah khair for joining us, and I hope this is a great experience for you.
I'm cool. How are you? Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
I'm good. You've been a busy lady.
Yes, as always.
And do you need much introduction? You're part of the furniture.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Let's go off to our news bites then. If you can just read out the headlines, Aisha.
Okay, so this article is about Syria conflict, women sexually exploited in return for aid, by James Landale and Vinnie O'Dowd, BBC News. And the synopsis of this article is the fact that it has now come to light that there have been allegations of sexual abuse to vulnerable women in Syria from UN aid workers, and I believe some local charities and councils as well. It's not clear whether they're foreign aid workers or local aid workers, but nevertheless, I don't think that really matters. It's just absolutely shocking how this has been apparently, it did actually come to light about 3 years ago, and nobody apparently picked up on it and investigated it.
What are your thoughts regarding it?
I mean, the thing is, I think we discussed an article recently as well where, you know, other aid agencies had been doing, you know, unfortunately been exploiting women in other different parts of the world. And so I'm not really too surprised at all that this is happening in Syria, but I find it absolutely disgusting it is, of course.
Okay. What are your thoughts? Because you talked about UN and not expecting this sort of under their sort of care because of who they are.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what kind of people they have working in their organisations. And like Sister Aisha was saying about the vetting process and, you know, how do they vet people? How do they make sure that, you know, they are fit for the job because of the kind of things that are happening?
I think this has come as a blow to a lot of people because especially currently what's happening in Syria, what's happening in Ghouta, it is unbelievable and unimaginable, the horror that people are suffering there because of all the bombings and non-stop killings going on. So then you get a story like this from an UN, an organisation that is supposed to be there as a peacekeeper for the world. And as soon as you say, because one of the things you asked me, how does this happen under UN? Who accounts these people? Who sort of goes through the reliability of these people and does the checks? But when people see UN and United Nations, there is an immediate sort of sense of security because of the familiarity, because of their standing, because of the label. And I wonder if that is a reason why people have become a lot more careless. But for this to happen, for people who are supposed to go there and give aid and help these people who are already under so much suffering, for a person to abuse this and abuse this vulnerability because they've been targeting widows and women who have lost their sons and fathers and husbands, taking advantage of that kind of vulnerability in a war situation, it takes a certain kind of person to do that. So you're right, who is doing the checks? And what kind of checks are being done? And maybe it's not rigorous enough. Did it shock you to hear that this is done by UN?
It did, because, I mean, like you said, they're so renowned. And you associate them with, like, peacekeeping. And I'm just wondering, how must the Syrian women feel? You know, what does it make them think about the West? What kind of idea does it give them about the West? You know, they probably think these people are coming to help, and now they look like almost demons and monsters.
Well, that's the thing. And according to this article written by James Landale and Vinnie O'Dowd, and this is from the BBC News, they have said that because it's become so widespread, the problem, and it's very known within the camps, that women are afraid to go and get aid, not only because of the fact that the risk of getting abused, but also the fact that even if they didn't do some of the favors that's expected of them, they're afraid to go because they may be stigmatized. That if they come back with food and aid, that the people would think that they have done something to get that in return. So when you're already in that kind of situation, you're starving, you have children who don't have the basic necessities, to not go because you may be stigmatized just to go and get food.
I know. Can you imagine the even more humiliation that they've already receiving? And the thing is, what people need to understand, from my little understanding, so I'm not going to act as if I know everything, but from my little understanding, when I did work solely with a charity in the past, is that the culture is that the women tend to be, maybe not all of them in all of society, but the women do tend to be solely reliable upon men. So they literally will be like fending for themselves from the very beginning, learning how to do things for themselves. So for them, you know, being bombed as is, your country being bombed, is a humiliation. For them, learning how to do things for themselves, almost like a child learning to start again. If that makes any sense, do you see where I'm going with this? It's another kind of, I suppose,
kind of independence. But to be honest, in reality, even if you had that kind of independence, what can you do with that independence in a situation where you have access to nothing? So you are pretty much solely reliant on humanitarian aid. And then that is the one place that is taking advantage of your vulnerability.
And humiliating them more further. So that was,
absolutely.
My point.
And there's Daniel Spencer, humanitarian advisor working for a charity. She heard about the allegations from a group of Syrian women in a refugee camp in Jordan in March 2015. So she conducted a focus group with some of these women who told her how men from local councils in areas such as Daraa and Quneitra had offered them aid in return for sexual favours. This is a quote from her. She said they were withholding aid that had been delivered and then using the women for sex. And this is said by Miss Spencer. And she was saying complaints, and this issue had been raised, but a lot of the charities are actually saying that they're actually claiming they lacked awareness regarding it. We have a spokesperson from Oxfam who said, we did not receive reports about sexual exploitation around AIDS delivery in 2015, but have zero tolerance policy on such abuse. A spokesperson for UNHCR said they had been aware of the allegations at the time, but there had been insufficient information to identify and take action against any people or organizations. However, the UNHCR has commissioned new research to find out more, and additional efforts were made to strengthen prevention measures, reporting processes and training for local partners. Do you think that's enough?
No, it's not good enough, is it? To me, it's almost as if they flicked it away as if there was a fly on their shoulder or something. It's like, oh, well, what can we do about it? What information do we have? We'll go and find out, doing a proper, deep, thorough investigation. You know, if there's women who are focus group speaking out, there are women who are going to tell you exactly who these people are, surely.
And I think would be quite frustrating for people to hear is the fact that they're looking at prevention measures. It's a shame it should have happened in the first place at all.
No.
These are people that they are trusting,
It's disgusting.
and it's unacceptable, and some actions do need to be taken to stop this.
I'd like to know what action they're going to take.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think that'd be interesting
If
to
any.
follow up on. But
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair so much, sisters. We have come to end of News Bites. Let's quickly go off to a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about being a single mom and stepping up to obstacles that come our way. See you in a bit. Assalamu alaikum.
Islam Channel is here in the Kingdom of Bahrain to cover the World Islamic Banking Conference. This year, the conference explores new topics, including a focus on fintech, digital banking, and ethical banking. The World Islamic Banking Conference is the world's largest and most significant annual gathering of Islamic banking and finance industry leaders anywhere in the world, bringing together over 1,000 delegates from over 50 countries and over 70 high-profile and globally renowned speakers. Islam Channel has joined Mohammed Chowdhury, Head of Financial Management Group at the Bahrain-based investment firm R Capita. We join him as he speaks with globally respected industry leaders.
There is great reward in building a mosque for Allah's sake. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever builds a mosque for Allah, Allah will build for him likewise in paradise." T-Bar Foundation's new initiative to build 99 mosques across Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Rwanda is already underway, but we need your continued and generous donations to help us complete this noble project. Each mosque will be named after one of the names of Allah and will help to serve the local communities in the poorest areas. Donate today by visiting tbarfoundation.org or call 020 7330 1744.
The first word revealed to the Prophet was read, proclaim in the name of your Lord and Cherisher, who created you. Thus, no human being should be deprived of the basic right to read. UKIM is working to educate orphans and children in need who cannot afford an education. Please support this worthwhile project and donate by visiting ukim.org so we can ensure no child is left without education.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. You have just tuned into Women's AM and today's discussion is on being a single mom. We'll be looking at some of the struggles in the life of a single mom and at the same time celebrate how much they shine through despite the despair and struggles that life often throws their way. This is a live show, so if you would like to take part in our discussion, you can call on the number that should be appearing on your screen shortly. Now then, first of all, just say, Aisha, you're a single mom.
Yeah.
Misbah, you are also a single mom, and I know it's one of the inspirations behind your book that we will talk about later. But first to ask the question, I come to you, Aisha. Do you think there is an increase in single motherhood? And if so, what are the contributing factors?
I think that there's definitely an increase in divorce. And I think that's been spoken about quite a lot over the past decade or so, maybe even obviously beyond that. And obviously that will be a major contributing factor, which is probably the most contributing factor. Obviously they're going to be widows as well. And I think that, you know, if there's only going to be an increase in divorce, it's going to be an increase in single mothers. But the point I want to talk about is where's the help for single mothers? Because a lot of women stay in marriages as well, which aren't healthy, usually because of the typical phrase, we'll stay for the sake of the children, and so on and so forth. So that for me is a bit of an issue, because for me, in my personal experience, I would rather have peace, comfort, stability and safety in my life rather than stay in a marriage which is, and this is just from my experience, obviously I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of a widow, for example, but I would rather do that and struggle a little bit maybe in a different way than go through being unsafe.
Misbah, do you think is our view of a widowed single mother different to that one of a divorced single mother? Why do we as a community stigmatise single mothers, and can we possibly change this?
I think there's definitely a difference in the way that we see widowed mums. They don't bear the brunt of the stigma in the same way.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Because I think it comes down to the fact that on some levels, we know as Muslims that life and death is in the hands of Allah, so you can't really blame the widow for that. But where it comes to divorce, women in Islam, and it's like a cultural thing again.
I agree.
Their whole purpose is seen as serving the man. So if anything goes wrong in the marriage, then the flaw must be with them, because no decent husband would just divorce a wife for no reason.
So not in Islam, but culturally, women are seen as though they have made, as a widow, you didn't have much of a choice. You didn't have a choice, but as a divorced woman, you made that choice to get divorced rather than sacrifice and put up with whatever difficulty.
Yeah,
do you think that's why that stigma and that judgment is there?
I think the stigma is a lot about not following the sunnah and not knowing about women's rights and seeing them as inferior. And if you think about it, a lot of people misconstrue things like the hadith and the stories in the Quran. So the story of where Prophet Ibrahim told his son to change his doorstop because his wife was ungrateful, and the hadith about there being more women in the hellfire than men because they're ungrateful. This gets twisted to suit people's agendas.
And do you think this is what adds the pressure in terms of our expectation regarding women?
Yeah, definitely. Women are supposed to be, mute. They're not supposed to stand up for themselves, because if they do, that's seen as being disrespectful.
Once again, we have to clarify, this is a very cultural perception. And if you actually look at the history, look at the seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his time, the time that Islam actually came, divorce, this isn't to encourage divorce at all, but what I'm saying is laying out the reality here. In that time, divorce was quite a common thing, and women weren't stigmatized. Women got married very quickly because men didn't view it as something that was negative. If it happened, it happened. Yet we sort of carry this cultural baggage that is actually not from Islam, and women are stigmatized. And most of the time, there are genuine reasons as to why people end up in a divorce. And I think, what can we do to change that attitude? Because we know that attitude exists. And I think, to a certain extent, I think it is getting a bit better. People are maturing in the perception. Do you think it is getting better in terms of how we view divorced people?
In the Muslim community, not necessarily. Definitely in the West, there's more tolerance towards single mothers. And so coming back to your question about how can we change the stigma, I think there needs to be a conversation happening between leaders of the communities, with the community, perhaps imams during a khutbah, they could raise awareness about what single mothers go through, and just remind everybody about, what a mother's rights are, what a woman's rights are in Islam. Because, we have to remember, women are not just mothers, they're also women as well. And we've all got rights.
No, that's absolutely. Aisha, do you think, moving away from the whole divorce issue, because it's not what it's so much about, because everyone has the reasons as to why it happens. But those who are single mothers, sometimes it is a tough job
Yes.
And so much respect to single mothers out there, because even for those who are in couples and have that support, raising children in a family is a difficult thing. So working, going home, they have to deal with the children, and alhamdulillah, all of it's a blessing, but it's a tough job. Every blessing comes with its test. So as a single mother, you multiply that by 100. It's more of a test. And do you think people are realizing that? And do you think the community is trying to sort of raise that kind of awareness to create more empathy and support around single mothers?
I think that's a difficult question to answer, because I can only answer from my own perspective and what I've seen. Obviously, I haven't done any research on that, on the last part of that question. But what I do know is I don't think people quite understand how much guilt single mothers in particular feel. How guilty you feel that maybe you can't provide them with certain things that maybe you could if you could work full time. And there are actually single mothers out there who work a full 9-to-5 job or whatever it may be, and come home and cook and clean and pick up their kids and go to their plays, but you will always feel guilty because you're never good enough. Like you've disrupted something, you're not going to give them the whole experience of being in that dual parent family. It is a dual parent family, it's just that you're not together. But people don't seem to understand that it is what you just said, it's a struggle. It's a massive, massive struggle, and the guilt can be overwhelming at times. And sometimes we have to really stop back and think, hold on a minute, what you just said, we do X, Y, and Z, and actually maybe we're doing an okay job after all.
And maybe you're doing more than an okay job, maybe you're doing an amazing job. And do you think sometimes, though, we put that guilt on ourselves? Do you think that, just quickly to you, Aisha, do you think we put that guilt on ourselves?
I do think that, but I also do think we do that because of the fact there is this pressure or stigma, whatever you like, from the rest of the community. There must be something wrong with you if you're... I'll give you an example, actually, off the top of my head. I was reading, I won't mention the name, obviously, but I was reading somebody's post on social media. And it was all about coming from a broken home, and it was from a male perspective. And this person did put statistics, but there wasn't a link to any statistics. And it was all so negative, people who come, children who come from broken homes, or rather, he focused on not having a father around, so I'll be more specific. They're more likely to commit suicide and things like that. And I thought, well, okay, maybe there is some truth in that, but it's so doom and gloom. It had such negative connotations. I thought, what about all the successes? Where are all the successes? Where are the children?
Also, that can be quite scary for a single mum to read.
It wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to the guilt, sometimes it's your own children who make you feel that way. I know my kids had said, why couldn't you just not fight with our dad, and maybe things would have got better, because they're so young and they're so naive, they don't understand. It gets really hard to kind of explain it. And then obviously when children they see like their friends have got 2-parent families, and that they get to do stuff, whether it's like going on more holidays and the bits and pieces that they get to do, and you can't do that, they can sometimes feel resentful towards you. And subhanAllah, it is quite tough.
And how do you sort of, when children do have this kind of perceptions, do you have to sit them down and have that conversation? And do they understand?
I think it depends on the age, but I know for me personally, I kind of thought the kids will be okay. They seem like they're okay. And it wasn't until they were older that they kind of started speaking up more. And that's also what led me to write my book. And then I did have a conversation with them. And it's hard because on the one hand, you don't want to slate their father and say anything bad. But on the other hand, you do kind of want to make it clear that, it's not always so black and white. And sometimes marriages, they do break down because of one person, and sometimes it's because of 2 people. So,
and I think for children, I think maybe sometimes, and I think, and I've seen some examples of really good mothers out there who really try, despite the problems between themselves, who really try hard to maintain at least a good united front for the children, and try and maintain that civil kind of relationship, and that's relationship where the children don't feel anxiety by looking at their parents and seeing the issues.
Really, really, really hard to do that. Very, very hard to do that. It takes a lot of patience, and it's very difficult.
It's very hard for those outside of the box like ourselves to really actually appreciate the difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main difficulties I think that single mums face. I don't know, Sister Aisha, if you can relate to this.
Okay.
I remember I had a conversation with my children, and I said, if I don't wake up one day, this is how you call the police. This is where your grandparents live. This is what you have to do. And I had to run them through that. It was so distressing for me. but it was something I felt I needed to tell them, just in case, you know, God forbid, the worst happened one day. And people don't think about aspects of that. They don't think about, you know, we're Muslim women, what happens when you need the plumber to come around, or the electrician, or your landlord, and, you know, you are alone with a male. You might not feel comfortable with that. You've been put in that situation. Women generally in Islam, you know, we're not supposed to go out after dark. What happens in winter when you have to take your children to the madrasa? Things like that. And also, you know, never getting a break, doing it on your own all the time, combating those feelings of loneliness and trying to hold down everything, motherhood, bills, maintenance, DIY. And that's like one of the themes that the book explores as well.
I think it's just that's what I was actually going to ask. What are some of the like challenges we face? And I think you've sort of given us quite a window into that. Can you relate to that, Aisha?
Absolutely. You know, the first thing she said, I've thought of myself. You know, about how you know, talking to my kids about who you need to call if this happens. I haven't actually done it yet, but it's definitely on my to-do list. And that's a very long to-do list as a single mother. You know, and I can totally relate. And I think the biggest one for me, though, apart from being the cook, the cleaner, the chauffeur, whatever, everything all in one, you know, the teacher as well, and the doctor, the medic, or whatever at home, is, forget the kids, not in a horrible way, but the loneliness.
Yeah. I think that's an important word to leave on, because let's come back to that, because that's, I think we need to touch on that a bit more. But let's quickly go off to a break. We'll be back with you to continue this discussion. Assalamu alaikum.
This winter, thousands of people risk freezing to death. Islamic Help is providing emergency winter protection to Syrian, Palestinian and Rohingya refugees, but we need your support. Please, donate to our winter emergency appeal now. Call 0121 446 5682 or visit islamichelp.org.uk.
Pauline Hills Resort in Bosnia, managed by Swiss Hotel, is a great investment opportunity. 400 luxury villas and apartments in the capital, Sarajevo. 10 minutes from the city centre with 5-star interior design. Segregated swimming pools, gym, children's playground and much more. Offering freehold properties with full management and rental guarantee. Invest in Pauline Hills by visiting paulinehills.com. Eastern opulence, Western modernity.
Allah, 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 ma lana mawlan siwa Allah. Allah, أنت وهاب العطايا ومجيب للسؤال.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Women's AM. I am joined by Misbah Akhtar and Aisha Davis, and you have just joined us where we are appreciating and celebrating the life of a single mom. I think celebrating is quite an important word. I think we will come to that because there is a lot to be celebrated in what our single moms have achieved. But before that, just to let you know, this is a live show, so do call us if you would like to join in on the conversation, or if you have some questions for our panelists here. So just before we left for the break, Aisha, you touched on a keyword, loneliness.
What do you want me to talk about?
But I think it is a lonely place to be, especially when you don't have someone else's hand to hold throughout that journey.
It can be. It can be. I think it has. I mean, especially when you first divorce or whatever the scenario might have been for how you become a single mother, it can be very, very lonely and you feel very isolated. As they say, it's a cliche, but time can be a healer and it does help, you know, alhamdulillah. But I'll be honest with you, I don't like, well, I shouldn't say I don't like astaghfirullah. I do dread Ramadan, I do dread Eid, especially Eid al-Fitr, because obviously it's a family thing. And, you know, for example, for me, I don't have Muslim family at all. It's literally me and my kids. My mother's not Muslim, obviously, I'm a revert, so I can't go even to my parents' house or whatever and have that comfort even of my family being around me. So for me, I am literally almost literally alone. And I'm also I also want my kids to grow up a little bit more quickly so they can fast with me, so we can break fast together, so we can do suhoor together. I'm on my own doing all of that. You know, and it's just, I can't go to other people's houses for iftar all the time. You know, I'm sure not, you know, I'm going to move in, otherwise I'll have to start paying rent, be part of the furniture.
So there are quite a few challenges. And I think during the break, Misbah, you mentioned about the fact that you're constantly quite worried about what would happen, about the children if something were to happen to you. And you were saying you don't get a chance to think about the grave. You're more worried about what's going to happen to the children.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes I've stayed up at night thinking about this, that if, you know, God forbid something happened and my time came, it's almost like worrying about the grave is almost like a luxury, because your first stressor is what will happen to the children. Will they be okay? My son is 19 months old and he's solely, like, he's breastfed, he doesn't have much food at all. How would he survive? Who would raise the children? So it you know, it's definitely one of those things. But I think, you know, at the end of the day,
I can imagine, and I think because I was saying to you during the break, as once you become a mother, that sort of tends to be at the back of your mind. You hope and pray to Allah that you're there for your child and they're not left alone without a mother or a father, and that's a worry. That's constant. I know that's something that I've worried about and made dua to Allah about. So I can imagine that's so much more exacerbated as a single mom. But I have to say, I think this is where thinking, I think, in a certain mindset helps. And we've got to tell ourselves, you know what, Allah is the one who will take care of our children. And I think you were about to go into that. And
yeah, I mean, everything that happens is obviously qadr Allah, and it was decreed 50,000 years before the earth was created. We have to take comfort in that. And that whatever is happening to us, it's not a punishment. That's the main thing. When something bad happens, people just assume automatically that they're being punished and that Allah hates us. And that's not the case, because we know from Surah Ad-Duha, it was revealed at a time when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was feeling extremely low. And Allah says explicitly in that ayah that Allah has not forsaken you and Allah is not angry with you. And
often Allah tests His slaves to help them grow, become a better version of themselves, or even to bring them closer to Him. So I think it doesn't help anyone to view anything as a punishment. And I think Allah talks so many times that He says, do you think that you can just be a believer and not be tested? And we don't know what good will come of that. So I think we need to take it as a test. And I think there are a lot of mums out there, and you guys are an example of this, that despite having that test, you are doing amazing and inspirational things. But tell us from our history as well. I mean, there are so many prominent figures in history who have actually had single moms, and we wouldn't have known that until people started doing research on it. Sister Misbah, I think you've got a few examples.
Yeah, Hajar, the mother of Ismail alayhi salam, she raised her son alone, and if you think about that for the moment, she was living in barren land, didn't know where her food would come from, and had to raise her young son by herself. But what's amazing, and what we should take from that, is her tawakkul in Allah. She knew that Allah has put her in this situation, and that therefore there will be a solution. And she knew all she had to do was have sabr, and that's not easy when your child is crying and your child is demanding milk. But she had amazing patience. Also, the mother.
And I think also, when we say sabr doesn't mean we can't feel pain. Sabr doesn't mean that we can't struggle and cry. I think all of that will happen, and don't kick yourself down for that. I think rather the sabr is that accepting it from Allah and relying on Allah to make it better and give you something better out of it.
And not give in to the waswas of shaitan.
And I think also talking about Hajar alayhi salam, this is the woman whose sort of rituals we follow in Hajj.
Exactly.
I mean, how much more of a great, more honoured person. And she was Ismail alayhi salam. And then I think you've got Maryam alayhi salam,
Yeah.
who's Isa alayhi salam. Is it Bukhari and Imam
Bukhari's mother
Shafi'i
in
had single
particular.
mothers?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, Imam Bukhari's mother in particular. Obviously, we all should know who Imam Bukhari is. Amazing man that he was, rahimahullah. But his mother, he was born blind. She would constantly make dua for him so that he would regain his eyesight. And I believe he did around about the age of 10. I think Allah gave it back to him around about the age of 10. Wallahi, is literally as soon as he regained his eyesight and she realised he could see, she took him straight to the masjid to become a Hafidh of Quran. Straight to the masjid. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. How much conviction she had and how much tawakkul and how much reverence for her Lord that straight away, as soon as the son came back, you know, she didn't sit on her laurels. She took him to the mosque, and I just found that absolutely amazing. And look what he turned, you know, into the man he was, and he's forever revered as well. We don't know her name, but I'm sure, you know, with Allah, she's much known and much revered. Alhamdulillah.
And then we of course have Imam Shafi'i,
Yes.
who's a great classical scholar. This is for us, why do we mention them, is because there's a lesson in it for us, and that it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. And I think maybe we as a community need to inspire and be there for our single moms. And you know what, you can do it. These are the things that these women have achieved. You can do it too, rather than slap them down even more, rather than stigmatize them and make them feel guilty.
Yeah, and I think coming back to Maryam alayhi salam, she's a great example because she did face a lot of stigma from her people, and you know, a lot of maybe slander as well, and questions about, you know, how do you have this baby, and the way that she handled it amazingly with tawakkul, always remembering that she was Muslim and that you don't have to give in to, you know, slander and how people are speaking to you. That should be a great lesson that we take from this.
And I know this is so easy to say, because obviously when you don't have that kind of support, yes, there is loneliness, yes, there is difficulty, and sometimes you can just feel like you're walking on this path alone.
Yeah.
And whilst it's great to have someone there you can make those decisions with, and I know this is so easy for me to say, but Allah is always there for us. Allah is there for us to turn to, and I think for the sisters who are going through that struggle and really finding it themselves in dark times, I think remember that, turn to Allah, talk to Allah, don't feel that you don't have someone to talk to, reach out to people, because sometimes people don't know the struggle that we're going through, and they might genuinely empathize and be there to help you, but let them know. I think it's okay to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I formed, there's a Sisters Only Single Muslim Mums group on Facebook, and they're amazing sisters. They're very supportive, they're very comforting, they're always there for each other. But like you said, reach out, surround yourself with a good support network, even if it's only online. Remember that Allah does not burden a soul with more than they can handle. And one thing that I say to sisters in particular is, if this is the price for you to pay to get to Jannah, isn't it worth it? You could have been tested with far worse.
Yes.
And alhamdulillah, you know, if this gets us into Jannah, then it was so worth it.
It's so worth it.
That's such a lovely reminder, Aisha.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, she just summed it up amazingly. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, barak. Yeah.
And tell us a bit more about this group, that if there are sisters who don't have that kind of support, where can they go to find it?
You mean the Facebook group?
Because you've set up a Facebook group for single moms.
There's a Facebook page, and then there's a Facebook group for sisters only. It's on Facebook, it's called Single Muslim Mums. And like I said, they're very supportive. We've got like a database of all the different sisters, and we try to help them to link up with other sisters in the same area. So there have been like quite a few friendships that have been formed, which is lovely.
Oh, there's an example of something amazing you are doing. I think this is brilliant, and I know it's come from a place where you can really understand these sisters, and you've been there, you've done that, you're doing it, and that's inspired you. You use your pain to go and do something productive.
Definitely. I used my pain and my anger and turned it into passion to try to help other sisters.
And may Allah make it successful, and then people can access it via Facebook?
Yes.
Where should they go?
So if they just go to Facebook and just type in Single Muslim Mums,
and they can request to join.
Yeah, and there's also a WordPress site, so like a website for the official Single Muslim Mums. There's loads of articles on there, quotes, videos, uplifting things for you to read to try to boost your iman as well.
Aisha, do you have sort of final messages?
Final kind of words, I suppose, of support for sisters who are facing single motherhood is that, I suppose, similar to what I said earlier, at first it can be very daunting, it can be scary, it can be lonely, it will be painful. And first of all, if you are, feeling lonely or pain or guilt, allow yourself to be, because I think sometimes for some reason there's this notion, like we said about sabr earlier, we're not allowed to feel pain, we're not allowed to be upset. Of course you are, you're human. This is what Allah created us to be. But He did say, don't give up hope, do not despair. So do turn to Allah, do talk to Him. And believe me when I say du'as can be answered like this, because they can be and they will be, because Allah knows what you're going through. It's not just a cliche, He does. This is our Lord, He knows everything and He knows your pain and He will make it easy for you. And obviously with hardship there is ease. So just
and also I would
keep
say
striving.
To the moms, look at you as an individual, love yourself, recognize the value of the work that you are doing. Despite that, you're going out and creating projects to help the rest of the community. So there's the support that maybe wasn't there for you, and that's an amazing thing to do. And I think we have to view ourselves in a positive light as well before others can. And then I would also say to friends and family and community, maybe rather than wait for someone to ask, it's great if we can ask for that help, but just checking, you know what, just make it, cook a dish, take it down, make it easier.
Exactly. It would
keep
help.
yourself informed what your friend's up to, what her lifestyle is. Maybe one particular week she's so much more busier. Just do something. Don't ask.
Can I make another point?
Very quickly.
Okay, to all the sisters who know of single mothers who will be alone this Ramadan, ask them around for iftar. Don't leave them on their own. Ask them around for Eid, even if it's just an hour or two. Don't leave them be, because you don't know whether they've got external family or not. For example, revert sisters or those, who've lost family members, whatever. Invite them. Don't let them suffer on their own.
On that note, thank you so much for this discussion, sisters. But we're going to quickly go off to a break. Don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll be looking at a brilliant book titled Ramadan Without Daddy by our very own Misbah Akhtar here. See you in a bit. Assalamu alaikum.
Friday Dars, our new program with Ustaz Asim Khan and Sheikh Shakur going through detailed stories from the Quran. Tune in every Friday at 11:45 a.m.
What if we told you that you could buy a property in the UK without a mortgage or a bank loan? Well, with Chartbury, you can now buy a freehold UK property from only £1,300 a month. No lengthy paperwork and no credit checks required. Just buy straight from the developer with our interest-free payment plan. Visit chartbury.com or call 0203 865 6722 and reserve your dream property today.
The African continent is in a dangerous situation due to war, hunger and natural disasters. Help the African Relief Fund to save these helpless, poor and deprived people. With your donations, we are providing food, clean water, health facilities, education and above all, hope and smiles. Play your part in this worthy cause by visiting our website or give us a call.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Women's AM. I'm here with Aisha and Misbah, and we are now going to talk about Misbah's very interesting book called Ramadan Without Daddy. And we sort of touched on this earlier. It is such an interesting title, and I think much needed. And as you said, is written, you were inspired by because of your own personal circumstances. So tell us a bit more about that.
I know for me, one of the hardest times when I first got divorced was Ramadan, like Sister Aisha said. And feeling like you're alone at a time when everybody's with their family. So that's what the book was about mainly, looking at the issue of, Ramadan, a particular time when children are with their whole families, how that would affect children of divorce. And it also touches upon another issue, which is absentee fathers, which sadly is something that is becoming quite prevalent in the Muslim community, where there's fathers that are not taking interest in their children, how this affects the family, how a mother who's newly divorced is struggling to keep it together for the sake of her children, so much so that her daughter has to almost become a mother to her younger brother.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was looking through some parts of the book, and I think one of the things that sticks out for me is that you try and answer questions that children would naturally ask in that situation. And there's a very interesting way that you've answered one particular one. So one of the child asked, "Where does Daddy live?" And you went into it, and you used toys, the box with the triangle shapes and the square shapes that you have to stick in. I don't remember what it's called, Aisha.
I can't remember either, but I know what you're talking about. Shape sorter.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Sorter,
like a shape sorter. And I think over here you said, I want you to imagine that you are playing with Daniel's sorting shapes. What happens if I try to push the triangle into the square hole? It won't fit, Daniel shouted. I should become a storybook reader. You may even be hurting the triangle by trying to make it fit where it doesn't belong, Khadija pointed out. Toys don't feel pain, smiled Daniel. No, but people do, Mummy said, taking Khadija's little hand and gently kissing it. Mummy and Daddy were hurting each other by staying together, so they decided to divorce and live apart and stay friends. And I think this is really interesting that you took the visuals that you used. You took something that a child understands, and that's using toys to explain something so complex that human beings go through. Did you? I think I love the way that you pretty much explained that. But did that come from your own personal conversation with your child?
Unfortunately, it did not. It's something that I thought of many years later when I was thinking it would have been better if I explained it like this. And reading other kind of children's books that looked at maybe divorce, not by Muslims, so like non-Muslim books. It's an idea that I got from that, and I really liked it. And my children were like, "This would have made things so much easier if you'd explained it like this."
And I think you were saying a lot of people said to you, they'd wish that they'd had this book when they needed it.
A lot of people have picked up on that particular bit, and they love the notion of explaining divorce like that to children.
Explain it in a painless way, Aisha.
Yeah, subhanAllah. I mean, my kids sometimes, they're a bit older, I think, maybe for the book, but I still think they would have related to it. Even now, sometimes, I have a semi-civil, I suppose you could say, relationship with their father. No, he is hands-on, but sometimes we do disagree. And they still ask me, why can't Daddy stay? Why can't he still live here? And it's just, again, having to reiterate why and to discuss why. But the thing is, I think what we need to stress on as well is to make sure they know that we love them.
Yeah.
They must know that we love them, and they must know it's not their fault, because they automatically, for some reason, tend to think it's something to do with them, they've done something wrong, and it's not the case at all. It's the adults who are to blame or at fault or whatever it may be. And as long as they're loved, hopefully they'll get used to the fact that Mummy and Daddy aren't together anymore. And as long as they're loved from both parties, I think that's important.
They do adapt. Children are adaptable.
Yeah.
And the main thing, like you said, is having two parents there. As long as they're both getting that unconditional love from both parents, inshallah, they will adapt.
I'm just looking at the book again, and I think it's a very pretty book. It's very prettily designed, mashallah, and very child-friendly. And I think you have these cute little images where you have the child sitting on... Whose lap is that?
Mum's.
The mummy's.
Yeah.
And this is the younger sister?
That's Khadija.
Khadija, okay. But what I found about this is very family-oriented. There's this coziness to it. There's this... it's touching, and it's just making it a very friendly kind of atmosphere, if you can say, within the book.
Yeah.
As opposed to a depressing one.
Yes.
As opposed to depressing. It's actually very friendly, very cozy. They look happy. And I think it's good to have this, because when children look at this and they can relate to them, they can, you know what, if they can be happy, we can be happy too. Have you had children give you feedback on this book? Because that's what I'd be interested to know.
I've had my children give feedback, and they liked it. And the reviews that I've got, some people have mentioned how their children found it, and they've said it's quite positive. I think there was a worry because of the title that people thought it was going to be quite sad, which is why I added in the little caption about Khadija's story of love, courage and hope. And also, I didn't want to detract and make downplay the fact that divorce is hard, but I did want to show hope. And on one of the pages, it actually talks about where the mother is saying that, you know, we should be grateful for what we've got because there's people out there who've got less. And then it shows a picture of a family who do have much, much less. So there's a lot of
gratitude.
Well. Yeah.
So there's quite a few concepts that you tackle in here, like gratitude and gratefulness, and looking at other people who probably have it worse off, and appreciating the blessings that we have. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, and that's the truth, it's not all doom and gloom.
No,
just any other sort of life situation, you have the good times, you have the bad times, and you know it's. And again, once again, it's easy to say this if you're not a single mom, if you're not a single parent or a single dad even. You'd have a couple that look like an ideal family, yet you have no idea
what's going on behind closed doors. That's absolutely true. Yeah.
So everyone will have their test.
Yeah, of course.
And whatever test yours is, I think it's just facing it with that kind of love, courage and hope that you're encouraging in this book. And I think maybe this is the message that we need to give out to the community and sisters out there, that you can be that person who can be courageous, who can who can inspire to do other things, who can even just inspire your children just by being the role model and being that rock in their life, even if it means on your own, just harder the rock.
Exactly. Be the change that you want to see, and don't wait for someone else to do it. If I had waited for someone else to do it, we'd still be waiting. So alhamdulillah, you know, my children, especially my daughter, was like, I'm so glad that you speak up for other mums, and you know, you're like inspiring, you're like a role model to me. Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah, you are, and you've taken the opportunity to do something like this that will inshallah gain you barakah and reward for whoever takes something from this. Sister, tell us, where is this book accessible if people want to get it?
It's available on Amazon, all Amazon outlets, and also through the publisher, which is Jarabi Kitab.
Jazakallah khair so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here, because I know it wasn't easy for you, especially with the little baby who's still breastfeeding. Thank you so much, sis. Thank you so much, Aisha. We have come to the end of the show, but a huge thanks to Sister Misbah Akhtar here for being here today, and Aisha Davis. Now, don't forget, if you do have comments, questions, or would just like to give us your feedback, we would love to have them. You can post on our social media page, facebook.com/womensam.tv, or email us on myic@islamchannel.tv. Thank you so much for watching. See you again tomorrow or Monday at 11 a.m. Assalamu alaikum.
Islam Channel is here in the Kingdom of Bahrain to cover the World Islamic Banking Conference. This year, the conference explores new topics, including a focus on fintech, digital banking, and ethical banking. The World Islamic Banking Conference is the world's largest and most significant annual gathering of Islamic banking and finance industry leaders anywhere in the world, bringing together over 1,000 delegates from over 50 countries and over 70 high-profile and globally renowned speakers. Islam Channel has joined Mohammed Chowdhury, head of Financial Management Group at the Bahrain-based investment firm Our Capita. We join him as he speaks with globally respected industry leaders. Islam Channel is now available in a brand new app, free to download for iOS and Android. Live stream directly to your device. Use our catch-up feature so you never miss our shows, or discover other content through our categories. The Islam Channel app, with you wherever you are.
We bring you a weekly health show where we tackle everyday health problems. Now, every week we're going to be joined by a health expert within their own field, and they're going to discuss preventions to health issues we or our loved ones might face.
If you're looking for the ultimate halal food experience in London, then why not try Le Douze Razi? Based in the heart of Chelsea, we offer a fine selection of French-Lebanese fusion dishes, perfect for lunch or that special dinner. Book now by calling 0207 352 6695 or visit ledouzerazi.co.uk. Le Douze Razi, elegant, luxurious and halal fine dining.
Muslim Aid presents political journalist and broadcaster.
By the way, just on a factual point.
Unedited, uncut.
That 1.8 million of your fellow British residents and citizens, that 1.6 billion people across the world. I agree with you. I agree with you 110%. That is my point.
Unfiltered. An evening with Mehdi Hassan. Book your tickets now at muslimaid.org.
As aid efforts continue, the fight for survival has not ended. A sea of people with nothing to call their own await your support. God has not forgotten these people, and neither must we. The time to help them is now. Donate now to the Rohingya emergency. We are calling you to action. muslimhands.org.uk.
In Bangladesh, Meena is grieving now. She lost her mother, husband, and infant son because she gave them dirty water to drink. She had no choice. Now is the time to say stop. Now is the time to say this can't go on. Now is the time to give.
Sister Fatima walks miles every day to collect dirty, unsafe water full of parasites and disease for her baby Ahmed, knowing that it could kill him. But she has no choice. Ahmed is just a baby who knows nothing but pain. Ahmed is full of agony. 3.4 million people die as a result of water-related diseases, and children are the most vulnerable age group. Ahmed is one of those babies. However, we can wash away these preventable child deaths and diseases, help to build a water borehole in Rwanda and provide a community access to life-saving clean and safe water. Donate your Sadaqah Jariyah now. Save a life with Tiba Foundation. Help Ahmed.
The African continent is in a dangerous situation due to war, hunger and natural disasters. Help the African Relief Fund to save these helpless, poor and deprived people. With your donations, we are providing food, clean water, health facilities, education and above all, hope and smiles. Play your part in this worthy cause by visiting our website or give us a call.
Where can you go for your perfect 14 nights holiday? Travel Express is offering you a lifetime trip, 2 weeks of full pleasure and spiritual experience. Flying from London, you will experience some of the oldest Islamic sites. The experience will take you back to thousands of years of history. Perform your prayers at Masjid Al-Aqsa. As part of the package, Makkah Al-Mukarramah is your next destination where you will perform your Umrah prayers. Medina Al-Munawwara is the land where Islam was introduced. Welcome to the City of the Prophet. This fantastic offer includes accommodation, all local transportation, tours and flights. For more details, please contact us on 08000 14 14 19 or website www.hajjandumrahexpress.com. This could be the most fulfilling trip you ever dreamed of.
we take many